You can change the world. Learn from proven change makers from all walks of life. They'll show you how to raise money, invest for impact, and so much more. You can start small. Start today and never quit. You can change the world by strengthening your superpowers. Now, welcome to the Superpowers for Good show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe. We are so fortunate, folks. Today we have with us Pooja Mehta. She is an extraordinary woman. She's leading a firm she calls the Marigold Effect, and you know we'll start here in just a minute with Pooja. We'll talk about why it's called that, but you are going to want to get to know Pooja, so stick around. Pooja, welcome. We're thrilled to have you.
Yeah, thanks, Devin. It's so great to be here today.
Well, thank you so much, and tell everyone what the Marigold Effect is. Where does this name derive?
Yeah, so the name actually, so marigolds have quite a significance in the South Asian culture. My parents immigrated from India. And so when I was thinking about a name, I was really trying to think about like, what is it that I want to do with my business? And I learned that marigolds, when they are planted in a garden, really help other vegetables flourish. And so I thought, okay, that's what I really want to be as I help support in any capacity possible other businesses. So marigold effect.
Yeah, I actually that's a brilliant name, brilliant name, and so aspiring to do that, and in fact, you do that. I mean, you've done some great things. In fact, just recently, you made some meaningful grants to 10 businesses. Tell us a little bit about. Uh, Give us the bigger picture of the business operations of the Marigold Effect, and then tell us about the grants that you recently made.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, Marigold Effect, we're focused on kind of three prongs, which is one is business advising, second one is legal consulting, and the third one is impact investing, all focused with aims to reduce the gender and racial wealth gaps. And for the micro grants that we did last year, we really wanted to kind of make a point about philanthropy and how a lot of times, grantors are making these grants, but putting on these like kind of onerous application processes, reporting processes that really aren't necessarily necessary, especially, kind of match the level of effort with the size of the grant. So we said, let's make these micro grants. Let's allow nonprofits to just give whatever, documentation they already have. Like a lot of times the 990 that they have to file with IRS is just full of good things that me as a grant maker could look at. We were just looking to partner with organizations that were focused on reducing that wealth gap. And we were kind of industry agnostic, but we were focused this first round with kind of those that are in the DC area. That's where I'm calling in from, Washington, DC.
Yeah, it's and because you're in DC, you'll be available, and so you're speaking at Supercrowd Baltimore, and that's just a week from the date we're scheduled to air this. So I hope
Right.
as we're talking, it's a week from today on March 21st. Tell us a little bit about your presentation, the twin perspectives that you'll bring in your perspective at the Supercrowd Baltimore.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I'm a founder myself. I've owned several businesses. So kind of understand that when you're raising money, what it looks like from that perspective. But in 2021, I kind of was able to sell a big portion of my family's business and move into a role to do some investing. So I've kind of seen, what makes yourself attractive both to somebody who's an investor, but also like what kind of capital do you want to take as a founder? Because as the saying goes, not all money is good money. So we'll really be talking about what are the ways that you can, first of all, figuring out whether or not you even want to raise capital outside, or if you want to kind of like try to focus on strengthening your own business through your own revenues and reinvesting in your business. Or, if you do decide that you would like to explore options for raising capital from outside investors, whether it be a bank or an angel investor, crowdfunding, now how do you make your business the most attractive so that you get the terms that you want? you kind of feel that your business can really successfully repay your investor, and that it really actually drives growth in the way that is meaningful to you.
Yeah, well, that is going to be a great presentation. I'm excited to hear it myself. It's so important for entrepreneurs to understand how to appeal to investors, and I've been, like you, kind of in both camps at different times,
Hmm.
different moments, and still there is a combination of art and science involved in doing this well, and I think your take is going to be extremely valuable. So I really appreciate you bringing that perspective to Supercrowd Baltimore, and I'm grateful too. I need to add that you've agreed to repeat the performance at Supercrowd 24, our big virtual event next month, April 17th, 18th, and so thank you for
Yeah,
doing
no,
that. It'll
absolutely.
be
Thank you for
great to have
inviting
you
me.
appear at both events. Oh, it's we're just thrilled to have you. Thrilled to have you. Thank you so much. Uh, as you think about um, investment crowdfunding specifically for a minute, um, what appeals to you about that marketplace for both investors and for entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I mean, I think from the investor side, it gives individuals access. 99% of businesses are actually private, right? So a lot of times with, a 401k, you really only have access to that 1% of those public companies on the stock exchange. So there is something really exciting about being able to, as a, community member, find a business that's in your neighborhood and say, I want to support this. I want to see more childcare centers, more restaurants, more affordable housing, and really put your money there. Um, and I do feel like we've kind of like, because of the securities laws, that you need to sometimes be an accredited investor, which usually means you're high net net worth or you have high income. So I love the fact that it's creating a lot more accessibility for investors to enter that marketplace of supporting private businesses. On the founder side, I think it's just really opening up a whole nother pool of capital. I've done some angel investing in 2021 when I became a accredited investor, and really saw how there was money kind of flowing a lot freely on the venture side, and wasn't seeing that for Main Street businesses, and see that crowdfunding can provide some access to that. It's also an opportunity to kind of really, especially if you have a business that is engaged with consumers directly, whether you have like your cafe and you have your regulars there, a way to build a deeper relationship with them. And then also kind of have some mutual possibility of mutual benefit for both the investor and the funder. So I'm always a big believer in when we can have mutual wins for that. I don't like to see things where there's only really upside for one party. I don't think that's sustainable or really holistic.
Yeah, it is interesting. You make a great point that I hadn't thought through perfectly, but there is a certain win-win dynamic that's a little more deeply ingrained in the crowdfunding investment arena than in other marketplaces. That's great. Uh, you know, virtually everyone watching the show is eligible to be an investor. I'm not sure everyone watching thinks of themselves yet as investors. But if you were going to offer a tip for investing in crowdfunding deals on screening and due diligence and all of that, we just have a minute or two, and there's so much water to wade through. But I wonder if you wouldn't
Right.
just give us a few tips, a tip or
Yeah.
two anyway, on how to screen and choose wisely so that you can actually get a return on your investments.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I always like to try to invest in things that I can understand, right? I think there's a lot of investments out there. And I feel like for me personally, when I started to dip my waters in, it was really thinking about, does this product or service actually make sense to me first, right? It may sound exciting, but if it actually isn't something I can't understand, I don't know if it would be a good investment for me. The second thing is really to kind of just like peruse things and really think about maybe making like a set portfolio of investments. If you have like maybe $1,000 to invest, maybe think about doing like 5 to 10 investments so that you kind of aren't putting all, the colloquial eggs in one basket. I feel like diversification is something I talk with all my clients, whether it's from an investment perspective or even from like a revenue perspective. You wouldn't want to have just one client that you relied on for all your revenue. And in the same way that, as you start out looking at investment crowdfunding, maybe you wouldn't just want to have one investment that was like hopefully the one that would be the winner.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such an important point to talk about. That diversification aspect, and it is one of the remarkable things about investment crowdfunding. Some deals have minimums well above 100, but many are
Many.
offered with a minimum investment threshold of $100. Most, I think I can honestly say most, maybe even a vast majority, have under 250. And I have a favorite website that lets you invest 10. So you could find some really small thresholds. So even if you only had $100 to invest, you could diversify. It's kind of a cool
Right.
marketplace. So great point. And I love your point about investing in what you know. Um, Now you're an attorney and you help people with some of the legal work. Um, Tell us a little bit about the legal side of preparing to sell securities as an issuer slash entrepreneur. Um, it's kind of scary. Is there a way to get comfortable with that intimidating
Yeah. I mean,
process?
there is, and luckily, there are so many educational opportunities now. I think even the SEC's website is really informative about that, about raising capital, the work that you're doing to kind of create educational opportunities in that space. And one thing is just to really, before, I mean, even though I'm a lawyer and I went to law school, I'm not, a securities lawyer. And so I didn't really understand even that because I hadn't, in my prior companies I'd gone and done like SBA lending and things like that. So I hadn't really early on in my own kind of career as entrepreneur raised publicly or raised from, strangers for that fact. So just really understanding like, what you can do publicly and what you cannot, because I think people sometimes don't think that like, you couldn't just like put up a sign and say you've been a great customer of ours. Would you be interested in investing with us? And really the need to be following the right channels, and that investment crowdfunding is a great the regulation CF that allows for that.
It is, I think just super cool. And I really appreciate you taking some time with me, Pooja, to talk through some of these issues and appreciate your help, the help you're offering to entrepreneurs. But folks, we're here with Pooja Mehta, the founder of the Marigold Effect, named for its ability to help other plants prosper. And so we have a business here that's helping others prosper. And I love that. Uh, we've been talking about her business, her work, crowdfund investment, and impact investing. So much good stuff. But when we come back, we'll talk to Pooja after this break about her superpower. So stick around. Join us at Supercrowd Baltimore to connect with community-focused business leaders and investors working to support diverse founders, social entrepreneurs, and community builders. Learn how to raise money from the crowd and how to invest like a pro. March 21st at the B&O Rail Museum. Register today at thesupercrowd.com.
Hope to raise money from the impact crowd. Good investors are as interested in community, social or environmental impact as you. Connect with Funding Hope, an SEC-registered FINRA member crowdfunding portal to learn how to raise capital from the impact crowd. Scan the QR code now.
Join us for Supercrowd 24 for 2 full days of wealth and impact creating content at this virtual conference on April 17th and 18th. We'll have 100 speakers and live pitch sessions. Learn how to invest like a pro and raise money from the crowd. Save 50% with the discount code SUPERCROWD at thesupercrowd.com. Welcome back. We're here today with Pooja Mehta, who is an impact investor, lawyer who helps small businesses raise capital, and an entrepreneur herself, an amazing human being. We're excited to be with her, and we're going to shift gears now and talk a little bit about her superpower. So stick around for this conversation. Pooja, you really have, you're all that in a bag of chips. Okay, so as I think about, the great work you're doing, we're just thrilled to have you on the show today and to tap into some of your insights. But what do you see as your superpower?
Yeah. That's such a hard question. I would think two things that come to mind. One, I feel like I'm a bit of a generalist. I have, owned restaurants, I've done photography, I've done, um, lawyering in the nonprofit space, private space, small, large organizations. And I think that that has allowed me to really cover a lot of things. The drawback of that often is that, you're not like an absolute expert in like, securities law that is like in the state of California, nor will I ever be or have any interest, to be honest. But I would say that that is something. Another one that I do think is that I have had, my fair share of mistakes running businesses, doing investments, and I feel very comfortable at this, stage in this season of my life to really be upfront about it, not to hide behind it, because I feel like I've learned a lot from it. I don't even think I'd have the ability to really like share, um, kind of ideas with other entrepreneurs about things to do, because a lot of where I draw from is like, don't do that. Like, try that. That was like a real like that was bruising. Like, maybe just skip this step and think about this other route, or the combination of the legal background and like the errors of my own past is to really ask the right questions for an entrepreneur to really think about what's the correct strategy for them to take. Because as a founder, like every day you're just making 100 decisions, and there could be so much fatigue about it. You're almost like, "Let somebody else handle that." But really, like when you are the founder, it really does, start and stop with you. But to have that space to be reflective about it, to take a brief pause, to analyze like how things could go right, but also how they could go wrong. I feel like that is something I can bring to the table as kind of a collaborator.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I just think about all those aspects, but I, I guess in a way, I find myself distilling that down into this idea of wisdom, right? That at still a very young age, you have accumulated some wisdom that you're able to share with people. It, do you reject that distillation of your superpowers? Do you accept that?
Well, I mean, I love it, but I also feel like I'm such a curious person, so I'm often still like very much find myself in that learner phase. Sometimes I'll have like 30 browsers open on my phone, on my computer, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to know more about that, and that leads me to another thing. But I feel like that's where being more of like the Marigold Effect, where I'm not really here with my one sole venture. It's really like helping others. So if I have a client that's really deep in, a certain space, I may like start to gravitate towards more, seeking wisdom, I would say. I don't feel like I have it all at the moment, but I am
Yeah.
a curious person and always down to learn like what it is more that I could bring to the table for somebody else.
Yeah, well, you bring a lot of wisdom, I think, but I appreciate what you're saying. As you think about some of the challenges you have faced in recent years, you've done some, accomplished some amazing things, and you've had a great career. But w- can you think of a time when you used your superpower to accomplish or overcome a challenge, accomplish something, or overcome a challenge?
Yeah. I one time I definitely feel like this is kind of back in my restaurant times is, I had a lot of like kind of cultural conflict between different sets of employees there. And I really had to kind of bring myself on that level of like empathy and kind of understanding a person's perspective, because just because people work together doesn't mean they'll like each other, right? And their reasons for not getting along can be cultural, they can be kind of their own personal stories. And so it was really important for me to like overcome that challenge, but really just getting real with people and be like, I get it, but we can't work this way. Like it's not harmonious. Like we don't need to be best friends in this environment, but like we have a shared vision, to some degree about what we want to get done while we're working together.
Well, I think that's a great example. I appreciate you sharing that. It's terrific. As you think about trying to help people, you've had employees and
Yeah.
you coach a lot of entrepreneurs. As you have trained, coached, how would you suggest to other people that they develop your superpower a little bit at maybe that, not everyone's going to be Pooja Mehta, right? We all want to be at some level, but we're not gonna. But we could be better at some of these things, eliminating some of our shortfalls a little bit and enabling us to accomplish more. What would be your tips?
Yeah, I mean, what's worked for me is just being really clear on my values. They drive a lot about, the work I choose to do, the clients I work with, how I, you know, what I even decide to get curious about. So I think the first thing is really like knowing yourself. That for me has been super helpful. Yeah, and I think just always staying like open and curious. I feel, even today I had a coffee with somebody and just like learned, a lot about a topic that, in my mind I would have never thought about, but just by being open to something and meeting with somebody that I didn't really think that we had any real reason to meet, but just saying yes to that still led to a lot of great knowledge for me.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic, fantastic. I really appreciate all the wisdom and insights you've shared with us today. You're just terrific. Before we wrap up, I wonder if you would just take a minute or two and tell people how they can learn more about your work and how they can connect with you personally, apart from, also, of course, I know they'll be able to meet you and connect with you at Supercrowd
Yeah.
Baltimore and Supercrowd 24. But where else? How else can people connect with you?
Yeah, no, definitely. If you come to Super Crowd Baltimore, please come by and say hello in person. It's always great to meet people face to face. I'm on my website, marigoldseffect.co, and we kind of work with people in a couple different ways. It can be just like really quick strategy sessions. Maybe you have a pressing legal problem or a finance thing that you would just like another kind of quick deep dive with somebody on, and then we do ongoing kind of advisory services, whether it's legal or kind of more in the consulting realm. And a big thing that we're about is really making our services accessible. So we kind of try to work with people based on their budget and their kind of lived experience.
Oh, that's awesome. The world needs the kind of help you're providing. And I'm so grateful that you're there as a resource uh, to people in your community and further afield. So thank you very much for doing that. We
Yeah,
want to
thank you,
wish you
Devin.
every success and thank you for taking the time to be on the
Thank
show
you.
today, Pooja. It's just been great to visit with you. We've had the opportunity to sort of be connected, sort of tangentially for a long time, and so
Right.
it's great to finally have a chance to be a little one-on-one with you. I appreciate the time you've invested in this conversation. I appreciate your willingness to share your insights at Supercrowd Baltimore and Supercrowd 24. And we really want to see you succeed in your efforts because your efforts are all about making other people successful. And I couldn't endorse or support that more. So thank you for all you're doing.
Yeah.
Again,
Thank
we
you,
wish you
Devin. Thank you
success.
for all you do as well.
All righty. Well, let's do some good.
Yeah.